Hey everybody, welcome back. Episode 30 here on the Three Prong Gaming channel. And in today's episode, we are going to continue in part 3 here of our intelligent construction process. And so yeah, if you haven't seen any of the last 2 parts, then go ahead and check those out. They all kind of blend together. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. In the last episode, we set up to where, so the construction office can now search on its own. If it doesn't have a job and it does have employees, it can search for its own and find a construction project which is closest to it. And we set it to that. So this episode, we're going to begin on the MPC to where they actually have to start looking for a job. I don't know, I kind of did this a little bit backwards, I guess. I hate getting to this point to where we can't really test anything that we've done. We can play and everything works like it did before. We get no errors, so getting no errors is a good thing, but that doesn't mean bugs aren't there. So, really, I guess we could have probably started with the NPC looking for a job and then doing the behavior tree and then doing what we did in the last couple episodes. But that's okay. We'll get a chance to check it all out here shortly. Probably not this episode, though. I lied to you guys in the last episode. I expected to be able to get to the behavior tree in this episode, and that's definitely not going to happen. And to be honest, we definitely have at least one more part, but most likely it may end up being 2 more parts in this intelligent construction process. The construction is probably, I don't know, I can't say probably the most complex that we have because, I haven't built that far out in advance yet. I've got several things ahead of what we have here in the video, but so things just get a little complex, but that's okay. That's why you try to keep it all organized and encapsulate everything and put things where they belong. So first, let me say happy Thanksgiving to all my viewers who celebrated Thanksgiving yesterday. And hopefully you had a good time and spent it with your family and ate lots of turkey. So, and I'd also like to apologize. I just got over a cold, but I think I'm getting sick again, which is really horrible because I'm the type of person who never gets sick. So, to have it twice within a few weeks span is kind of brutal. So if my voice sounds a little bit funny, I just want to apologize for that again. Probably end up having some cough breaks or something, or have to go blow my nose, whatever. So anyways, let's go ahead and get this started. I don't have any blueprints open up here because we've got a lot to go over today, and I'm not going to rush through it. I've done that in the past and have left you guys scratching your heads wondering what's going on. So first, let's go ahead and jump into the enum folder right here. Let's create a new enum. Right click, go blueprints, enumeration. Let's go ahead and call this one occupation type underscore enum. Okay, double click that, open it up maybe. There we go. Oh, it opened up in my other monitor. So let's put it up there, and right off the bat, we're just going to need 2 because we don't have any jobs. So the first one we're going to call unemployment. Make sure I spell it right. Unemployment. And then the next one, let's call this one construction. Okay, eventually we'll have a whole list of different jobs that you'll be able to have, but we can add that at a later time. For now, let's just leave it at that. Okay, so we shouldn't need that again, at least in this episode, so go ahead and close that out. All right, now in the struct folder here, we're going to need to update our MPC profile struct. Okay, because now we've got that occupation type enum, so we need to add it here to the MPC profile struct, so that way we can kind of keep track of what his job type is. So let's go ahead and add a new variable here. We'll call this one, maybe if I select it, call this one occupation type, and we'll make it of that enum that we just had. So find occupation type enum. There we go. Make sure that its default is set to unemployment. And let's go ahead and create another one while we're in here, just because we're here and it'll save me time from having to come back later. Go ahead and select in this new one. We will call this one place of employment. If you can find out a better phrase to put in there, then go ahead and do that. But place of employment seems to be the best I could come up with. So this needs to be of building master BP. Okay, so ultimately this is just going to hold a reference to whatever building he is currently working in. And we won't get any defaults over here because you don't get defaults off of those type of blueprints. So go ahead and save that. Now we can go ahead and close that. We're not going to need that again. And then now we're going to actually need another struct. I told you guys previously that I didn't want to put a struct in a structure in the building master or any of the buildings because they're a pain in the butt to work with, and they are, but ultimately they save you some different type. I don't know. They create work on one hand, but they create extra work on the other hand, and so it's kind of a give take. But it's kind of easier to have all your specific variables in one central location that all relate to each other. So let's go ahead and create a new struct. We're in our struct folder here. Right click, go to blueprints and structure. Let's go ahead and call this one building struct. Actually, we'll do building underscore struct. Okay, let's open this up. And I don't know why they're opening up on my second monitor. Okay, so now for this, we're going to need several here. 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. In this first one, let's call this one building reference. This is going to make things a whole lot easier if we have the ability to store the reference of whatever building we're retrieving this struct from. So let's go ahead and do that. We need to make this of type building master BP. Make it a reference. And then in the second one, building type, hit enter. And do we even have that in here? Building type, building type. Let me go into enums real quick. I don't know if we have that enum. Month, MPC, 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 MPC. Nope, we don't even have that one. Boy, I messed that one up. All right, so let's go ahead and create a new enum real quick. And go into blueprints, enumeration. Let's call this one building, what do we call this? Building type underscore enum. All right, let's open this up. For now, all we've got is 3 different types of building. We've got residential. This one, we've got commercial. And lastly, we've got industrial. All right, we may end up having more in the future, but for now, that's all we have and that's all we need. So go ahead and save that. Go ahead and close that out. We're not going to need that one again. And so now building type, now we can go enum again and grab the building type enum. All right, so our third one here, let's go ahead and make this, where am I? Let's go ahead and call this building name, and we will make this of type string. This next one, let's go ahead and call this one occupation type. Now, this is going to be implemented in the building master. Not every building is going to have an occupation type, but that's okay. The ones that need it will have it. So let's just go ahead and throw it in there anyways. I mean, we can make a separate struct, one for residential and one for occupation type buildings, but this is fine. We'll just put it into one, and only the buildings that have an occupation will worry about the occupation type. So this needs to be of enum. Find the occupation type enum. All right. And then this last one here, let's go ahead and call this one max employees. All right. This is going to be the maximum number of employees. Same thing with the occupation type, as far as this being used or not. Not all of them are going to use it, but this will be of type integer. And yeah, so that way you can set how many employees each type of building can specifically have. All right. And we'll just leave the default to 0 for the max employees. So that should be it for the building struct. We're eventually going to end up having to add on here, and that's part of the problem with the pain in the neck with the structs. But yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later. All right. So go ahead and close that out. So now we've got those all knocked out here. Let's go ahead and jump into the building master. Where is it? Go up here into buildings, grab your building master. All right. So now we need to jump into the construction script. We've already got a bunch of stuff up in here, setting the bounding box and the static mesh and all that stuff. But now that we've got this, remember in the last episode, we put in this building name right here. We're going to end up having to delete that. So let's create a new variable. Let's call this one building struct, and we will make it of type struct, the kind we just made here, the building struct. Okay, and compile that. So we got access to it, put it into the references building info category. All right, so now grab your building struct, pull it out here, and let's get it. You can right click this and split the pins, but just drag off and do break building struct like this. It makes it a little nicer, I guess. I don't know. So now what we need to do with this is now we need to pull out our building struct again, but now we need to do it as a set. All right, it's going to come out here as a set. So this one we will just right click, do split struct pin. All right, so now we'll go ahead and plug in the execution here. So ultimately what we need to do with this, and this is one of the reasons why structs are a pain in the butt, is because every time you update even just one of these, you've got to go through this process. You've got to go through everything and plug it all back in. Otherwise, you're going to lose the information. So the building type, just take it and plug it into there. Building name, plug it in. Occupation type, plug it in. And max employees, plug it in. Ultimately, all we want to do here is we want to set the building reference. So right click and type self. Get a reference to self, and then plug it in here. That's all we need to do for the construction script. So, but that's how you have to update your struct. So it's a pain in the neck, and yeah. And then whenever we update, like whenever we add something to the struct, like max residence, when we do our residential buildings, we're going to have to come in here and do the same thing. We're going to have to go back to all the structs that we set, and we're going to have to drag that new pin out and set that. So yeah, they're a pain in the neck, but you know, it is what it is, and we just have to deal with it. So we've got that. So we got the building instance that is set there. So now we need to go into our separate buildings here really fast and go into buildings. Let's go into residential, grab your residential master. Let's just set the base defaults for all residential buildings. Find your building struct right here. Building reference, don't worry about that. That's going to set itself. It's already defaulted to the building type. The building name, we'll just call this one residential building because this is just the residential master, so it doesn't really have a name. Unemployment and 0. So that's fine for that one. Compile, save. Go ahead and close that one out. Now we need to come back into here into the apartment small. Go into the building struct and change its default name now to small apartments. Hit enter. Again, unemployment and 0. Compile and save. We're going to end up having more once we start worrying about residential stuff, but that's it for now for the apartment. And then now let's go into our commercial. Same thing. Go into your commercial BP here and put it in my other screen. Go into your building struct right here. We need to set it now to a commercial. Its building name is just commercial building. Unemployment, we'll leave this as unemployment right now because even though it's a commercial, it's, you know, we only got one right here. So unemployment's fine. And then max employees we'll just leave at a base of 0. All right, so now come back down into here, go into your construction office, and we've got work in here. So now we just select the class defaults right here, come over to the details panel, and it's already defaulted to commercial because we set the commercial master. Its name, let's go ahead and change that to construction office. Hit enter. Now its occupation type is construction. All right, so now we need to decide how many employees do we want to work in this one particular construction office, per construction office. I've decided 4 is a decent number. That may change when it comes time to game balance and all that stuff, but 4 is a good number for right now. All right, so compile and save that. So now we've got that, all that little stuff is pretty much out of our way. In the building master now, though, we need to come in here, take this building name, and we need to delete it. We're going to, oh, actually, it didn't give me the error. I'm surprised it didn't give me the error. Compile and save it. Now, we use that building info variable elsewhere, just in one spot, which is in our HUD. See, we got the star here because it changed. So the MPC HUD, open that up, click the graph, And if it's not already open, go into your get NPC name right here. And why is that already set? That is weird. That is already set. That should not already be set. So it's, wow. Okay. Sorry, I'm blown away. I don't know why it was like that. It shouldn't have updated itself automatically. That variable should already be dead there. So I don't know. That's kind of weird. If for whatever reason your graph doesn't look like this, grab your MPC reference and then drag off of that and get my profile from it. And then just split the struct open. And then all we want from here is my profile name. And then plug that in. Yeah, because we use the building info right here. So I don't know. That's kind of weird that that's set like that. Anywho, make sure that's saved and updated and compiled, all that. So go ahead and close that back out. So now we need to figure out how we're going to keep track of all the buildings that we're placing in the world. Because, you know, you could have, depending on the size of your maps and all that stuff, you could have a really large world that's got, you know, hundreds of buildings and employees coming and going and leaving your world and immigrating out and all that stuff. So things are going to change. So what we can do, there's two places you could do it. You could probably do it, keep track of all your buildings in your level, and that's probably the right place to do it. But getting a reference to, we're gonna need to know this information quite a bit. So getting reference to your level, it is possible since 4.9, but I haven't really messed with it, and I don't know how to do it. And from what I've seen, it looks a little complex, really probably more complex than I really care to deal with. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep track of all our buildings in our game state, right? And that's pretty much what the game state is for. It's for ever-changing information that is related to the overall aspect of the game. So I think as a second alternative, that's the best place to put it. If at one point I decide to figure out how to get easy access to the level, then we may end up moving it there. But for now, let's go ahead and put it in our game state. So we need to keep track of, like I said, we need to keep track of all the buildings that get placed. So where is it? Go into the games BP folder here, open up my game state. All right. And then what we need to do in here is we need to actually create a new function. So go ahead and click new function. We will call this one add building to game. Okay, and where we're going to put this, just so you know ahead of time, we're going to end up putting this when we finish construction. We're going to put this, we're going to run this function, and this function will put things where they belong. All right, so we need to create a couple new variables here. Boy, I need to organize this, put this all into like categories. Click variable here. We need two new ones. We need one called residential buildings. Hit enter. Needs to be of type building master BP reference. All right, and it needs to be an array. So let's go ahead and add another one. And this one will be we're just going to call this one occupational buildings. These are going to be just buildings that that have jobs. Pretty much every building we place, except for residential, is going to have some form of employees. So that's why we're splitting them up. But there's no employees in residential, and we'll need that later when we look for housing and stuff like that. So that should be good enough for now. Let's go ahead and, yeah, and that's already defaulted because we set this last one. That's defaulted to building master BP as a reference and an array. So we don't have to worry about that, okay? So now what we need to do is when we add a building, we're going to call this from elsewhere. So we need to know what building we need to add, right? So we need a new input. We'll just call this one building. And again, it will be of type building master BP, all right? So let's go ahead and right click on that and do promote to local variable. We'll call this one building ref underscore local. All right. So that way we can use it later in our function without worrying about it. All right. So now off of this, go ahead and grab the building struct, which is right there, get building struct, and then pull off of this, and we need to break this out. All right, so what we need to know from this is the building type. All right, so let's just go ahead and pull off of this and type switch. Switch on building type enum. All right, what this switch is going to do is it just pretty much breaks out that enum and lets us know everything in there. So remember we set the enum to have residential, commercial, and industrial. So those are the only options we have. So now with the switch, we can come up here and decide if it's a residential building, this is what we're going to do. If it's commercial, if it's industrial, this is what we're going to do off of those. And doing it like this too, if we go back and add another type of building, then it'll just add the extra execution pin and we can come in and handle that. All right, so if it's a residential, what we need to do is we need to grab the residential building array right here. Let's go ahead and get it, drag off of this and do add unique. Oops, add unique. And then what we need to add is the building reference local right there. So just drag it and drop it right into there like so. And then let's just go ahead and, because functions should have them, type in a return node. We don't need anything to come out of this return node. So that's good enough for that. So now if it's either a commercial or an industrial, either or, go ahead and get that. Get your occupational building array right here. And again, add unique. Plug in the commercial to the execution, and then same thing with the industrial, plug that into the execution. So if it's either a commercial or an industrial, it's going to have a job. It's going to, so we'll plug it into the occupational building array. Okay, and then just go ahead and drop in your building reference local right there. And again, just drop in a return node like so. And that is it. That is our add building to game. Compile and save it. And we're going to have something else doing here. So we'll just leave this blueprint open for now. We're going to have to make another function. And then let's go into, to be able to use that add, we need to go into our construction manager. Where is it? Construction. We need our construction manager. Okay. And in our finish, we can go ahead and close that out. And in our finish construction, we need to be able to call that now. So right after the spawn, remember, in the last episode, we set up this call to finish construction, and we've got the destroy actor here. These are pretty much the last two we ever want to run in this function right here, in this finish construction function. So just drag those off to the side right now. And after the spawn actor, let's go ahead and grab our reference. We don't have the reference to it. We need a reference to the game state. So let's make a new variable, not a local variable, regular variable, in the construction manager, and let's call this one game state ref. Make it of type my game state right there, reference, and make it editable and expose it on spawn. So go ahead and compile that real quick and save it, and then jump back out here. Let's go into the blueprints folder, grab your camera pawn controller, and remember we spawned the construction manager at the begin play of our camera pawn controller. So now that we did that, we've got an exposed variable right here. And so let's grab the building master's reference, take this game state and plug it into there just like so. It gets a little crazy with the wires in here, but now we've got this setting that variable for us, so we don't have to. You could at begin play of your construction manager, at the begin play in the event graph, you could do all that in there. Let's just go ahead and pass it and make sure that, it's coming through. So grab your game state reference, get it. So now let's just do the function we just did. So add building to game, just like so. Plug in the executions and then just clean it up a little bit, and then grab what we need to do now is we need to, since this is spawning the building, just take this and plug that straight into there like so. So now anything else we need to add to this, we'll put eventually, I'm sure we will, we'll just put it in between these two. Like I said, these two need to be last, but this one should be right after the spawn actor. So that way it goes direct into the world. All right, cool. So that is it for that one. I think that's all we need for the construction manager. So we can go ahead and close that one out, close out the camera pawn controller. So now the buildings are there. So what good does that do us? Well, that lets us go into the MPC now and select your AI folder, grab your MPC blueprint. All right, and then let's see, I think we changed some stuff here in the My Profile. Make sure his occupation type is defaulted to unemployment, and then place of employment, you can't set that anyways. So don't worry about that. We're going to set that once he actually gets a job. We'll be able to do that just fine. Okay, so we need to create a new function into here, and we're quickly running out of time, but hopefully we can get to this. Create a new function here, and this function does not need any new inputs, and we will call this one check for job. All right, again, this description, we should have a description in here. Yeah, that way you can keep it organized. But check for job, that'll work for now. I'll come back and add all my stuff later. So what we need to do is now we need to get my profile, drag it in here, get it, and then just go ahead and pull it out and break it. Now we need to just make sure that we don't have a job currently. All right, this should be checked before, so this really is going to be a little redundant, but let's just go ahead and check it right now anyway. So your occupational type, go ahead and pull out and do equal equal, and make sure you select equal enum, not equal by equal enum. All right, and it's going to give you the drop down list here that we have for job types, and make sure that we're set to unemployment. So if we're equal to unemployment, then we want to do something. If we're not unemployed, well, we've already got a job. So this is, like I said, this is just a little redundant. Our behavior tree will actually handle this too, but a little redundancy is okay. So if it's true, what we need to do here, go ahead and select your output, and we need to create, we'll call this one search successful. All right, leave it as type boolean. So if we are not equal to unemployment, then search successful is false. So when we call this function, we'll send back that, hey, there was something wrong with this, it failed, so we'll send back false. Okay, but if it is true, if we are unemployed, let's go ahead and now we need to be able to get all those available jobs. Compile and save this. Now we need to get all those available jobs that we just set here, where we added the buildings, we separated them into residential and occupational. So now we need to be able to get whichever ones are available. Now this one is a little complex, and I think this is probably the last function we're going to be able to get to in today's episode. We'll be able to punch through this. So what we need to do here, let's go ahead and create a new function right there, and we will call this one get available jobs. Now again, this is something we could put in the MPC, but let's try to keep everything as encapsulated as possible, even though this isn't truly encapsulated, because these variables, to be encapsulated, we'd make these variables private, so only this object, which is my game state, could access it. Yeah, this will work for now. This is close enough to be considered encapsulation, I suppose. So now we're just looking for jobs. So grab your occupational buildings, all right, get it, and then pull off here and get the length, if I could spell. And we just need to make sure that there's even anything in here, because you may not have a job. So pull off of this, do greater than integer, make sure it is greater than 0, drop in your branch, plug in the condition here. All right, so now if it's false, we're going to need a return node on this. So we're actually going to need a couple pins here. The first one, we'll call this is job available. Hit enter. It'll be of type boolean. And then the second one will be jobs available. I misspelled again. Available. Hit enter. And it will be of type building master. It's already defaulted to that because we had set these up here earlier. So it's defaulted to building master. But the only thing we need to do is we need to make this an array. All right? Because we're going to return the full list of occupational buildings that are available. So if we're not greater, if this comes out false, if we're not greater than 0, then we need to just plug in the return node here, leave this as false. Now, if we were to compile this right now, we're going to get an error. We need something, because this is an array, we need something plugged into it. So even though it's false, we can take the occupational, and actually we don't want to do that. We will take a new local variable. Let's go ahead and create a new local variable, and let's call this one, man, I don't know why I'm hitting B, available jobs, job locations _ local. A little verbose, but it tells you when it needs to be. And make sure it is building master BP type, and that it is an array. So let's go ahead and drop this now into here, and then we'll just set this available job location local to that. And we're going to set this with all the available jobs here in just a second. So now that error goes away. All right, so now if it's true, if we do have anything within that array right there, then we'll go ahead and pull out here. We need to grab our occupational buildings now, drop that in here and get it. Now we need to loop over this. So go ahead and type loop, and we need the for each loop. And the way I originally set this up was I just had it grabbing really the first job that was in the list. And we're going to do something a little bit different, though. We're going to have them randomly select a job. I mean, because, you know, when you look through the classified ads to find your own job, you don't grab the first one that's available, right? You go through them and you say, okay, I'm going to pick this one, whether it's a random or not. That's what he's going to do. He's going to do random. So what we need to do with that is let's go ahead and just promote this to another local variable. Right click it and do promote local variable off the array element here. Let's just call this one current building underscore local. We're just going to use this. This is just for this array, so that way we have access to everything coming through right here. All right, so go ahead and set that. And what we need to do now is pull off of this and do, remember we set this in the building master. We made this function a couple days ago or a couple episodes ago called get employees. All right, so get it. All right, now remember when we made this, we had it return a Boolean. Does it have employees? The number of employees in integer form, and the list of all the employees. Well, last time we used the has employees, just a Boolean. Today we're going to use the number of employees. Okay, so now grab your current building local variable, get it, pull off that, and we need the building struct, right? So get that, and then again pull off of this and select break struct. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to expand this, hit the down arrow, and remember we set max employees in here. So now what we need to do is we need to come over here, drag this out, and select greater than or equal to integer. Grab your max employees pin right here. Without grabbing the whole thing, grab max employees pin and plug it in here. So now we're checking, is the number of employees in this building equal to or greater than the, we could just do equal, but just to make sure in case there's an error and somehow we get an extra employee in there, just greater than or equal to the max number of employees that we set for the building. So drop in a branch, go ahead and plug in the execution here. So if this comes out false, then that's when we want to run our code. But if it's true, if the number of employees is greater than or equal to max employees, let's just go ahead and grab these two right here. Control C, come up here, Control V is going to disconnect the link right there. Just plug the link back in. And if it's true, then we will return, again, we'll return false right there. And this array, this available jobs location should be empty as well. All right. So then now we come off the false. I didn't set that in my other one, okay? Or I didn't set this part in my other one for some reason. Off the false. Now, what we need to do is we need to get our available jobs. Get it. Pull off of this. Now we need to add unique. Plug that into the false. And what we need to add to this available jobs local is the current building local, right? So this is what we're currently iterating through in the loop right here. So then we'll just, if it's got an available job or available space for the employees, then we just add it to this little array right here because we're going to have to cycle through that. Oh, that's why I didn't run that off the false, because we're inside the loop. Go ahead and delete that. We don't need that right there. If we don't have any, if we don't want to return anything, if we don't have employees within the loop. Sorry about that. At least I caught that. Yeah, inside the loop, off this true, just leave it empty. That's why I didn't do it on my other one. All right, so now off the completed right here, let's go ahead and slide these out of the way a little bit. Off the completed, what we need to do is we need to run a branch, type that in there, and what we need to check now is the available job location right here. Get it, get the length of it, and then again we need to check to see if it's greater than, or well, we just need to see if it's greater than 0. All right, plug that into the condition right there and move these around a little bit. All right, so if it's not, this is where we need to plug this in right here. If it's not, that means we went through all this and we couldn't find a single building that had an available job. So plug that into the false, and that will be return false, and available jobs will be empty. Okay. And actually, this will be full of the available. Well, no, it won't be full of the available jobs, because if it's not available, it's not available. It'll be empty. So off the true now. If it is, then we just need to go ahead and do this again. Control C, Control V. Make sure you plug that back in, and we'll set is job available to true. So we're just going to return this list of available jobs, right? Because this code in here doesn't need to run the logic of randomly selecting the job. It just needs to tell the NPC who's going to call this that, hey, yeah, think of this as like the newspaper. It's going to give them a list of all the jobs that are available. And we're setting this Boolean because it'll be a little bit easier to know ahead of time if it does even have a job before we even check the length of it or anything. So, okay. So compile and save that. That should be all we need in the game state. So jump back into your MPC real quick. And yeah, we're definitely up there on time. So what we need to do now is, ooh, man, we're at 36 minutes right now. You know what? We just did that. We got the check for job. I really hate leaving a function half done. But yeah, we're pretty far into this, and we've still got a little bit to go to do this. So I don't want to run too deep on this. You guys just, I'm sure you're probably still tired from eating all the turkey. So let's go ahead and wrap this up here. And in the next episode, we'll finish this up. And I don't know, we'll see where we're at. Maybe we'll be able to start on our AI in the next episode. But yeah, until then, sorry, didn't finish this. Like I warned you guys a while ago, there's going to be times that this happens. And this just happens to be one of the first ones. So we'll pick it up exactly from where we're at in the next episode. And until then, do me a favor, go down and hit that like button. It helps me out a ton. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button as well. And go ahead and check out one of the other videos that might be playing on the screen for you right there. And you can follow me on Twitter, Facebook. Again, I won't spam your feeds. I hardly use it, but it's there. It's a nice handy tool to keep up with what's going on. So, until then, peace.